If you haven't watched the breakdowns of the previous 6 games, I suggest you do, since what happened here was arguably the most epic 7-game series the NBA playoffs had ever produced. While Game 7 was the culmination of the slug-it-out and knockdown series, it had a little less intrigue than the others, as the home team took control midway through the game and overcame a too little too late attempt, allowing the defending champs to advance to celebrate when the final horn sounded. Ben Gordon had thoughts of carrying the underdog Bulls to a then rare road victory into Game 7, getting hot early. With this pistol action, the Noah ball screen forced a switch, and when Rondo doubled, it scrambled the defense. Watch how Rondo foolishly drifts into the lane, leaving Gordon open for the easy catch-and-shoot 3. It didn't hurt he had some help from the referees as well. On this shot fake, he clearly begins his dribble, loses control all by himself, corrals the loose ball with both hands, and then continues to dribble the ball again. Instead of a double dribble call, he rises up over Rondo for this tough 3. Here's more triangle offense. As Gordon cuts through, Miller lifts to the pinch post, but notice Gordon getting the double pin down on the weak side. Scalabrine is there, but it doesn't matter. He kept it up in the second quarter as the Bulls built an early lead, cold isolating on Marbury and shooting over him like he wasn't there. And Gordon gets him in transition. Watch how he brings the ball over towards his shooting pocket with the left foot forward simulating a 1-2 jump shot before turning the dribble into an inside out. Marbury is turned the wrong way and he pulls up for the good look at a mid-range jumper. While it might have taken the Celtics a while to wake up, when they did, they unleashed a huge run that in effect decided this game. The Celtics run what is called floppy, where you have pin downs on both sides of the lane and 1 or 2 cutters using them to get a catch on the wing. The spacing got screwy with Ray Allen in the strong side corner and a double ball screen in the wing. The Bulls defended this well until Ben Gordon executes a bad closeout and allows Marbury right into the lane. Miller's natural instinct is to help down low even though Thomas was in perfect position. This leaves Scalabrine wide open for pretty much the only thing on offense he could do, catch and shoot. Here was some great denial defense by Gordon to force the offense deeper into its playbook. But off the ball screen from Big Baby, Miller steps up because House is the shooter, but Rose needs to be the help from the weak side. He never comes over, watch Ben Gordon just standing there staring, and it's an easy layup. In transition, Tyrese Thomas does not communicate this step-up screen to Heinrich, then foolishly reaches in on the dribble, allowing Ray to get to the hoop before the rotation can stop him. The Bulls were determined to stop Ray Allen from getting the ball as much as possible. Heinrich top locks to prevent the catch, but the Celtics then progress to a pin down that allows an attack on the catch into the middle. Noah has to step up, no one is on the right side to help, and Perkins makes a nice move to drop the ball in. Down 2, the Celtics go to a favorite play to get Pierce an ISO post-up on that right block. But it turns into a ball screen. Again, with the corner empty and no help, it's almost impossible to stop the roll man without a major rotation, leaving Big Baby open for the dunk. The Bulls were plagued in this quarter by bad turnover after bad turnover, not only leaving them with an empty trip, but giving the Celtics multiple opportunities to attack quickly. When Ben Gordon gets into the body of Davis, he figures it's a surefire foul call, but he's not allowed to initiate the contact, and it allows Eddie House to get out on the break, get to that left wing, and just hop into a quick release 3, one of his 4 threes without a miss. Meanwhile, the Bulls were trying to run their offense, and instead of running pinch post into double pin down for Gordon, Rose curls off the Noah screen. This was okay, but the spacing on the right side enables Perkins to help and House to bump down. This should have been an easy lob for a dunk to Noah. Instead, it's almost like a turnover as Paul Pierce takes off up court and doesn't let Salmons get into position before blowing by him for the layup. But the Celtics continued to build their lead, running that same high post entry looking to get it to Pierce down low on that right block. Again, this turns into a tough to guard pick and roll, forcing Noah to drop down to shadow Perkins, opening up the reverse to Rondo. This shallow attack caught Gordon sleeping, as Eddie House never stops moving, getting a good look from behind the arc for another triple. Here's the floppy set for House, where he has the option of which side to use. That activity sucked Noah into the midline, allowing Perkins to duck in. Now, normally this doesn't mean much, but credit to Perkins for converting. With a 10-point lead, rather than run something to get Rose or Gordon a shot, they go to Heinrich coming off a floppy set. He proceeds into a 7-dribble dance back and forth, and it results in yet another live ball turnover. Rondo leading the break, and Mikey Moore getting free throws. Here's the set they love to run for Allen, and something the Heat stole when he went to Miami, where he sets the ball screen, then gets an immediate flare screen. This was all well contained by the defense until Rose allows middle penetration and checked the gorgeous inside hand layup by Rondo, an easier release than trying to go across the body with the left hand. Hey sports fans, I am really honored to be able to bring on Dave Severance, who right now is the pro personnel scout for the LA Clippers, but in 2009 was an assistant coach for the player development for the Bulls. And we'd see him every so often when the camera flashed across the screen at the bench. And Dave, I'm really honored to have you here to talk about probably the most epic playoff series we've ever had.
Thanks for having me, Nick. Yeah, it was that was my first year in the NBA. I'd come basically right from teaching high school, and so for my first experience in the playoffs in the NBA to be that series was pretty special. Very emotional series. Everybody knows all the overtimes and 7-game series. We were really an underdog, and let's be honest, they didn't have Kevin Garnett for that entire series, which worked to our favor for sure. But that was kind of the coming out party for Derrick Rose. He set a rookie, playoff scoring record. I think it was game 1, which we won. And we were like a half a second away from winning game 2. We were a little bit late on a switch, and Ray Allen was able to make the shot that won game 2 for him. But then all the overtime. So my first year in the league to be introduced to the playoffs that way was pretty amazing and pretty special.
I've got lots more with Dave coming up in a minute, but let's get into the fourth quarter when the Bulls valiantly tried to get back into the game. At this point, the Bulls' offense had completely sputtered, and even Bill Murray couldn't bear to watch anymore. But down 9 in semi-transition after the Brad Miller steal, notice how slow Perkins is getting back. This forces Rondo to cover for him, and no one can get to Heinrich in time as he lets it fly for 3. Here's a single-double floppy for Gordon, with Miller on one side and Heinrich and Salmons on the other setting pin downs. Gordon draws 2 defenders on his cut, and that left Salmons with the easy pocket pass and finish. At this point, the refs decided to review a 3-pointer Gordon shot in the first quarter, in which they ruled it a 2. Suddenly, the Celtics lead was only 5 as the Bulls run their trusted Iverson cut series, sending Gordon across 2 screens along the free throw line for a catch at the wing. Gordon takes advantage of Ray trailing out of position to get to the hole, draw the contact, and get crucial free throws. I wanted to focus on a particular action that seemed to capture the fancy of Vinny Del Negro, and you guys ran it a lot. In fact, it seems like this set that we've been covering the last 6 games, with an Iverson cut to begin. I don't often see teams run something so ruthlessly, efficiently all the time like this. And so I was wondering if you had an idea of the genesis of where this play developed and why you guys liked it so much.
Well, it's a pretty common set in the NBA. At least the Iverson cut is pretty common. But the reason we liked it so much is because it got Ben Gordon the ball. Let's be honest.
Okay.
When you bring Ben over that Iverson cut off to 4-5 and get him the ball with a live dribble on the wing, first of all, that's the reason it worked. Let's start with how good of a player Ben Gordon was in that series.
So I'd like to bring up a specific play here because I like the progressions of this play if it doesn't get a shot right away from that wing. So can you walk us through how this played out, and if this is an automatic, it just sort of, is it all these things are all triggered, they have to cut, have to here or there when the pass goes there, and walk us through what happened.
Okay, this is kind of a read. You can see that Paul Pierce is kind of in the passing lane, and to keep the weak side occupied, you see Brad Miller, after he sets the Iverson screen, he'll just turn around and set a down pick for Kirk to kind of just keep the weak side occupied a little bit. But what you'll see here is first of all, Derrick makes a good play because he sees that Paul is overplaying John Salmons. There's no way to get Salmons the ball. So it's an automatic read. Joe Kim would just flash right to a little past the high post, and Paul Pierce is now out of position for a back cut. Joe Kim, we know, is a great passer from the elbow. He makes a great bounce pass read to Salmons, who then, makes the drive to the basket. He sees the defense collapse, and he hits Brad Miller, who is then faded out for a little 15-foot jump shot. So it's all a read on any kind of play like that where you're trying to hit the guy on the Iverson cut over the top. If the defender is top locked like Paul Pierce was, that's just an automatic trigger for the big to turn like Joe Kim did, catch the ball, and look for the backdoor bounce pass right away. And then John made a good play because he didn't have a shot, so he kicked it to Brad. So there was 2 good reads on that play.
Sure. Now, are you running through this like 5-on-0 in practice and going through all different options?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's go on to the next clip right in a row on this one, which is another option, which I think is maybe more complicated and it requires more skill and reading, where we have the Iverson cut and then it turns into a pin down. So I'm kind of curious, how did this evolve? Is this like Noah just deciding, I'm not going to set a pin down instead of going to receive the ball?
Yeah, this is again is another read. Joe, and it's basically on Joe Kim, okay? And he sees that right there, Tony Allen, who's probably their best defender that series, is chasing Ben off the Iverson cut. And then you can see right there where Ben is kind of top locked again. There was no real opportunity for a back cut. So Joe just turns and rescreens for Ben Gordon, just a simple repin. And you'll see there's a pretty good screen by Joe Kim. And then he slips it and we get the slip pass by Ben to the basket. So
let me ask you this. When you set a pin down in that mid-post area with the strong side or that corner vacant, meaning there's no help from anybody on that side, how come teams don't do this every time down? Isn't this a guaranteed like a slip and a layup every time with no help?
Well, you may not get the layup, okay, because the weak side corner guy, in this case, it would be Ray Allen. If he comes over to take the slip, then you'd have the pass to the corner, which would be Heinrich in this case. So if we run this clip again, actually they rotated Paul to Joe Kim. So Joe Kim doesn't have the shot there. He can either hit Salmons or Kirk in the corner. You can see it's a 2-on-1 on the weak side. So if the help is late, like it was at this case, Joe Kim lays that ball in. If the help is on time, if Paul Pierce is a couple of steps quicker, then Joe Kim can read the 2-on-1 on the weak side and pick which shooter he wants to pass to. This is a pretty common NBA action also.
For sure. If I were advising coaches at any level, I would encourage many more of these kind of pin downs to that area of the court because, again, like you just described, it just seems like against a man-to-man, you're going to get a shot, a good look at a shot every time. There was one where Gordon sets a flare screen.
Yeah. Now, this is just a different setup, a different way to get into the Iverson cut, which we call the 42 fist out. Ben would just set a little rip screen, a little back screen to get Salmons going to the corner. Maybe the defense screws it up. But what it does is if they don't want to switch this, what it'll do is Ray Allen's going to have to temporarily help on the back screen until the man can recover. And then Ray is off the body of Ben Gordon. But now when Ben catches the ball, the defender is 3 or 4 steps behind. And when Ben catches the ball, now he's got the live dribble here. Scalabrine, actually, they were in a blitz until Ben backs up. And now it's just an isolation. It's just Ben hang dribble, going to his left, and just drive and drop. So that play ended up being an isolation play where Ben's just dancing with the ball until he can see the opportunity to drive and kick. But the way the play initially was designed was to get the defender off of Ben's body. And the best way to do that is to set a back pick where your defender has to help a little bit. And now by the time he recovers, he's trailing the play by 2 or 3 steps. And that's exactly what happened right there.
Well, this all goes back to how you initially described this. Is you just wanted Ben to get that ball on the wing. And I tell you, it's a pleasure to watch the little nuances of what you're trying to do to make that result happen. And certainly with that back screen, if they don't help, then Salmons is going to be wide open, and they don't want to let that happen. And I'm always harping on this, telling coaches, if you want your shooter open, have him set up the back screen, right? Yeah,
that's a great way to get him open.
With 5 minutes to go in a 3-point game, we get another ball screen in the mid-post area. There's simply no help if Brad Miller insists on stepping up to prevent the dreaded long 2. And even if Rose rotated properly, he's too small to have much of an effect on the layup. John Salmons hit the self-destruct button a few times in a row as he dances out top in a prolonged ISO against Paul Pierce, catches him trying to slide, and gets right to the hole for a layup only to miss it. And when they push it, the defense is completely scrambled, with the ball finding Salmons all alone in the corner for a crucial wide-open three, but he can't get it to go down. And still down 5, they run Heinrich off a Salmons pin down, and while the pocket pass was way off target, it does hit him in the hands and then falls away out of bounds. And to essentially end this game with a 5-point lead and 2.5 minutes left, the Celtics try to force a switch, but it does get Pierce an opening to get into the lane. Ben Gordon is out of position as a spectator, while Pierce makes one of the best passes of his career to find Eddie House. Credit to Gordon for making him pump fake and interrupt his rhythm, but he generates a completely wide open look from the short corner 3, and this swish effectively ended the game, allowing the Celtics enough cushion to win it going away. Any memory that kind of strikes you as something that was just that gave you the enormity of the moment and how epic these all things were? Anything that you can remember that strikes you?
Yeah, I can remember after Game 7 loss in the locker room. I never thought I'd be that emotional after a game, and I just broke down into tears. I was crying. I can't believe this is over. This is the greatest thing ever. We were devastated that we had lost, but we thought we put up a pretty good fight. A couple other things I remember. Game 6 was probably the most exciting game in that series. I just remember at the end of the second overtime, maybe it was, where Joe came stealing the ball full court and dribbling in and dunking, and Paul fouling him. And, that gave Paul his 6th foul out of the game. And I just remember the energy in the United Center. I mean, it was so loud and crazy. And, that's basically the play that won Game 6 for us. And we had to hop on a plane that night and go back and play Game 7. And I remember KG being up on the bench, just, yelling the whole time, cussing up a storm. And I remember Tibbs being up, he was the defensive coordinator, and he's up yelling the whole game. And every time Derrick would score, he would, or Ben Gordon would score a big bucket, he would just, hang his head in defeat. You know how Tibbs does,
Yeah.
But the intensity of those games, I remember the hard foul on Brad Miller in Game 5, I think it was. Today, if that would have happened, it would have been a flagrant 2, and the guy would have been ejected.
Right. So, Dave, thank you so much for bringing your special, unique insight into this from being on the bench of the Bulls. I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Thanks, Nick. My pleasure.
And that ends one of the most epic series we've ever had in the NBA. It announced the presence of Derrick Rose as a rising superstar, reminded us of how good that Celtics team was, but how much they missed Kevin Garnett. It highlighted some of the struggles Vinny Del Negro had that would end up cutting his time in Chicago short, and lead us into the last hurrah by that Celtics team, who got to Game 7 the next year before losing to the Lakers in the NBA Finals. Stay tuned for lots more coming up, including the return of the NBA season. I'll be creating some really cool content, including leveraging the incredible data provided by Second Spectrum. So make sure to subscribe, adjust your settings to get notified, and don't forget at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?